So you added your prices to your website. What else?
Another thing that I had changed was the time that I follow up with brides.
Okay.
And this was something that at first I was like, do I need to change this? Because I want to keep the communication. I'm really big on communication within my business and just in my personal life in general. So before I would follow up like the day after I sent a quote and just be like, hey, did you see the $1,000 that I told you that you'd have to pay yesterday? Did you see that email kind of thing? Just let me know if you want to book like right now. I was so eager, but after again, getting engaged and hiring my own vendors, I realized, okay, I don't need all these follow-ups right now. I just got the email. I was working when I got it and I haven't had time to look at the email, or I was on vacation kind of thing. So I pushed my follow-up time for, I do my first follow-up usually 3 to 5 days after I send the initial email with the quote and everything like that. And just being like, hey, just checking on you. If you have any questions about anything, don't hesitate to let me know. I try not to sound or be pushy at all in the follow-up. I really just want it to be like, hey, I'm here to help. I sent you this stuff. If you have any questions, if you want to hop on a phone call, I'm more than happy to do that. And then I will follow up like a week after. And if I don't hear anything, I'm just going to archive it and move on to the next inquiry. Yeah. So the follow-up time was something that I changed. One of the first things I did, because I was like, okay, now I understand how it feels getting 5 follow-up emails in one day after emailing 5 different photographers.
I think everybody kind of has like that same standard process of like, you sit down and you're like, okay, I'm gonna look for photographers today. And like you said, you email like 5 people, and then that 3-day mark, suddenly everybody's following back up, and you're like, oh my gosh, this is kind of overwhelming. I just had this conversation at I don't know if they have like a Rising Tide Society near you, and they do like Tuesdays together.
Okay.
So they have they have chapters all over the US, and one of them is like really local to me. And we meet like one Tuesday a month, and we talk about, it's like a bunch of different wedding planners or wedding vendors. And we talk about different things. And we were talking about communication. And I was like, my niece just got married, a few weeks ago. And the week of the wedding, I was texting her and being like, hey, can't wait to see you this weekend. How's everything going or whatever? And she's just like, everybody is reaching out to me right now. Everybody needs my attention. Everybody needs my time right now. And it's so overwhelming. And I was like, oh, that's how it usually goes the last week of the wedding. But it made me kind of like think, and it was one of the things that kind of inspired, this topic for the podcast. Everybody kind of reaches out at like standard points. Yeah. And it's like the 30-day mark, suddenly everybody's trying to like finalize everything. And then I know that a lot of like hair and makeup people, because I see it in like Facebook groups, and they're just like, I can't write my timeline because the photographer doesn't do it until 30 days or the planner doesn't do it until 30 days. And it's like everybody's trying to do everything at the 30-day mark. Right. And it's just overwhelming because the bride's being pulled in a million different directions. All the vendors are all trying to get information at the same time, but we're all waiting on each other at the same point and stuff like that. And it's like, okay, how do we shift that? Can we make a change in how we do our business so that the brides aren't being overwhelmed at the same time that everybody is trying to get information? And so like when I did mine, I always changed mine so that all of the details, like everything was like at the 45-day mark. And like once a month leading up to it, it was like, hey, quick reminder, here's when your deadline's coming up. Do you have the information now? And it's like most of the time I had all of my stuff done like 2 or 3 months beforehand. And so it was like, okay, I'm not trying to get all of her information and finalization and details and all that kind of stuff at the same time. So I think that your switch to, that 3 to 5 day thing instead of trying to follow up like right after is really spot on for that reason. Because if you're flooding her inbox at the same time as everybody else, you're not necessarily going to get all of her attention right away.
Right. And I even because I always also try to figure out what vendors they have when they book. That way, okay, I know that I've worked with this planner before. I know their deadlines for these specific things. Same thing with this kind of photographer. And now for my future brides, like for 2024 and ongoing, I'm going to probably start doing a mock timeline when we have our
Uh-huh.
trial, which I choose like 1 to 2 months beforehand. That way, everyone who says they want makeup, they've been confirmed or not. The time that photographer needs to start photos is confirmed. Location is usually confirmed. That way, we're here. We did your trial. Let's go ahead and make your timeline. That way, it's already taken care of. We're sitting here, right now, type of thing. That way, you don't have to go back and forth and email. Oh, hey, can we actually change this? Can we do that? Everything is done at one time if we can.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
the way I always tried to do things too. And I know that my brides always talked about how they were like, oh, thank you. I appreciate that it's like we did this at like the 4 month mark or the 3 month mark or
Yeah.
whatever. And we're not trying to do it all in the last like 45 or 30 days or whatever. And they were like, oh, it's nice having that one thing off my plate now.
Really, I'm very type A, and I feel like I'm the type of person where it's like I want my future self to thank the past me.
Uh-huh.
So if I can get as many things as I possibly can for my client done before the 30 days, the
Hmm.
timeline and confirming the additional artist and all of that, if the final payment can be taken care of before then, I want it to be as easy as possible for them because it's going to be easy for us too.
Thanks again so much for listening to today's interview with Carly. It was so awesome having her on the show. Also, if you want to just send me a quick DM on Instagram or share today's episode to your Instagram stories and tag me, let me know where you're tuning in from. I would love to know that as well. So thank you so much, and I will see you back next week.